Chapter number 10, Gravitation. In previous two chapters, we have learned about the motion of objects and the forces which cause the motion. We have also learned that a force is needed to change the speed and the direction of motion of an object. We also observe that every object which is dropped from a height falls towards the earth. We also know that all the planets revolve around the sun. The moon revolves around the earth. In all the above cases, there some cases there must be some force acting on the object. The planets, and on the moon. Isaac Newton could grasp that there is some force which is responsible for all these motions. This force is known as gravitational force. In this chapter, we shall learn about gravitational force and the universal law of gravitation. We shall also discuss about the motion of the various objects under the influence of gravitational force on the earth. We shall try to know how the weight of a body varies from one place to another place. We shall also discuss the conditions which are essential for objects to float in liquids. Gravitation. We know that the moon revolves around the earth. An object when thrown upwards always reaches a certain height and then falls downwards. It is said that once Newton was sitting under a tree. An apple fell on him. This fall on the apple made Newton started thinking about the falling of apple on the surface of the earth. He became curious and started thinking if the earth can attract curious and started thinking if the earth can attract an apple. Can it also attract the moon? Is the force of that the same type of force is responsible in both the cases? He argued that at each point or its orbit, the moon tends to fall towards the earth instead of going off in a straight line, so it must be attracted by the earth. But in reality, we don't see the moon falling towards the earth. We shall now try to understand the motion of the moon by recalling activity 11 of chapter 8. After some time, release the rope again. Note down the direction of motion of the stone. After observing carefully the motion of the stone, we observe that before the rope is released, the stone moves in a circular path with a certain speed and continuously changes direction at every point. This change in direction involves a change in velocity or acceleration. The force which causes this acceleration and keeps the body moving along the circular path, always acts towards the center. This force is called the centripetal force, which means a force which always acts towards the center. Seeking in the absence of this force, the stone flies off along a straight line. This straight line will always be a tangent to the circular path. Any straight line which meets the circle at one and only one point is called a tangent to the circle. Straight line PRQ is a tangent to the circle at point R. The motion of the moon around the earth always occurs due to the centripetal force. The centripetal force is always provided by the force of attraction of the earth. In the absence of a centripetal force, the moon would pursue a uniform straight line motion. We have straight line motion. We have seen that a falling apple is attracted towards the earth. Now question arises: does the apple attract the earth? If so, why we do not see the earth moving towards an apple? According to Newton's third law of motion, the apple does attract the earth, but according to Newton's second law of motion, for a given force, acceleration is inversely proportional to the mass of an object. The mass of an apple is negligibly small compared to the mass of the earth. So we do not see the earth moving towards the apple. We can extend the same argument for why the earth does not move towards the moon. In our solar system, all the planets revolve around the sun. By arguing in the same manner, we can say that there exists a force between the sun and various planets. From the above facts, Newton concluded that not only the Earth attracts an apple and the moon, but all objects in the universe also attract each other. This force of attraction which acts between various objects is called the gravitational force. Universal law of gravitation: each object in the universe attracts every other object with a force which is always proportional to the product of their masses mm and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. The force is along the line joining the centers of two objects. Let us consider two objects P and Q of masses m and m, which lie at a distance d from which as shown in figure. Let the force of attraction between two objects be F gravitational force. The SI unit of G, universal gravitational constant, can be obtained by substituting the units of distance, force and mass in equation 10.5, and we get nm square kg ke power minus 2. As we know that there exists a force of attraction between any two objects in universe, try to compute the value of this force between you and your friend sitting nearby and conclude why you do not experience this force. Importance of the universal law of gravitation. The universal law of gravitation successfully explained various phenomena which were previously believed to be unconnected. The force which binds us to the earth, the motion of the moon around the earth, the motion of various planets around the sun, the tides in ocean due to the moon and the sun. Free fall. Let us try to understand the meaning of the term free fall by performing following activity. Activity 2. Firstly, take a stone, throw it upwards. After reaching a certain height, it starts falling down. We know that the earth attracts objects towards it. This happens due to the gravitational force. Whenever objects fall towards the earth under this gravitational force alone, then we can say that the objects are in free fall. Is there any change in the velocity of falling objects while falling from a certain height? There is no change in the direction of motion of the objects, but there is a change in the magnitude of the velocity due to attraction of each. Any change in the velocity of object produce oscillations in the object. Whenever an object starts falling towards the both, an oscillation is involved. This oscillations is produced due to the gravitational force of earth. Thus this oscillation is known as the oscillation due to the gravitational force of the earth, or oscillation due to gravity. It is denoted by G. The unit of G, oscillation due to gravity, is the same as that the normal oscillation in straight line motion, that is m s ke power minus 2 meter per second square. We know from Newton's second law of motion that force is the result product of mass and oscillation G. Let the mass of the stone in activity 2 be m. As we already know that there is always oscillation involved in falling objects due to the gravitational force of earth, and is denoted by G. Due to this reason, the magnitude of the gravitational force F will be equal to the product of mass m and oscillation G. That is, we know that earth is not a perfect sphere. As we know, the radius of the earth increases from the poles to the equator. So the value of G becomes greater at the poles than at the equator. For most of the calculation, we can take a value of G to be more or less constant on or near the Earth. But for all objects far from the Earth, the acceleration due to gravitational force G of Earth is given by equation 10.7. To calculate the value of G, to find the value of G, we should put the values of G, R, G, and M in equation 10.9. Here, radius of the Earth, motion of objects under the influence of gravitational force of the Earth. Let us perform an activity to understand whether all objects, big or small, hollow or solid, will fall from a certain height with the same rate. We know that each object experiences acceleration during free fall. From equation 10.9, it is clear that this acceleration experienced by an object does not depend on its mass. This means that all objects, whether big or small, hollow or solid, should fall at the same rate according to a story. Or to prove this, the famous scientist Galileo dropped different objects from the top of the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy. Mass. We know that the mass of an object is the measure of its inertia. We have also learned that greater will be the mass of the object. The greater will be its inertia. Its value remains the same whether the object is on the moon, the earth, or even in outer space. Thus, the mass of an object is constant and its value does not change from place to place. Wait, we know that the earth always attracts every object with a certain force F, which depends on the mass m of the object and on the acceleration due to the gravity. The weight of an object is equal to the force with which it is attracted towards the earth. The force of attraction of the earth on an object is known as the weight of the object. It is denoted by W. Substituting the same in equation, we have as the weight of an object is equal to the force with which it is attracted towards the earth. The SI unit of weight is Newton N. It is the same as that of unit of force. The weight is a force that always acts vertically downwards. It possesses both magnitude and direction. We have learned that the value of G does not change, remains constant at a given place. Therefore, the weight of an object at a given place is directly proportional to the mass m of the object, and we can write Wm. It is because of the reason that we can use the weight of an object as a measure of its mass at a given place. The mass of an object remains the same everywhere, means on the earth and on any of other planet, whereas the weight of an object depends on its location because G depends on location. Weight of an object on the moon. We know that the force with which the earth attracts the object is known as weight of an object on the earth. Similarly, the weight of an object on the moon is the force with which the moon attracts that object towards itself. The mass of the earth is greater than that of the moon. Due to this, earth exerts greater force of attraction on object, and the moon exerts lesser force of attraction on objects. Thrust and pressure. Have you ever wondered why an army tank weighing more than a thousand ton rests upon a continuous chain? Why cutting tools have sharp edges while a truck or a motor bus has much wider tires? Why a camel can run in a desert easily? In order to answer these questions and understand the phenomena, it helps to introduce the concepts of a thrust, net force in a particular direction, and the pressure force per unit area acting on the object concerned. Let us now try to understand the meaning of the terms thrust and pressure by considering the following situations. Situation 1. Suppose you wish to fix a poster on a bulletin board as shown in figure. For doing this task, your thumb in this manner, you apply a force on the surface area of the head of the pin. This applied force is directly perpendicular to the surface area of the board. This force acts at the tip of the pin, which is a very smaller area. Situation 2. Assume you stand on loose sand. Your feet go deep into the sand. Now, when you lie down on the sand, you will see that your body will not go that deep in the sand. If above both cases, the force exerted on the sand is equal to the weight of your body. You have already learnt that the weight is the amount of force acting vertically downwards, and here the force is acting perpendicular to the surface of the sand. The force which is acting on an object perpendicular to the surface is called thrust. In the first case, when you stand on the loose sand, force, or we can say the weight of your body is acting on an area equal to the area of your feet. In the second case, when you lie down, the same force acts on an area equal to the area of your whole body, which is in contact of sand. This area is larger than the area of your feet. Thus, the forces of the same magnitude have cases thrust in the same, but its effects are different. Therefore, the effect of a thrust always depends on the area on which it acts. The effect of thrust or sand is larger in first case than the second case. The thrust on unit area is called pressure. We can write pressure is pressure in fluids. Thus, the same amount of force acting on a smaller area exerts a larger pressure and a smaller pressure on a larger area. That is the reason why a nail always has a pointed tip. Knives have sharp edges, and buildings have wide foundations. Pressure and fluids, or liquids and gases are fluids because anything that flows is known as a fluid. A solid exerts pressure on any surface due to its weight. Similarly, fluids also possess weight, and they also exert pressure on the walls and base of the container in which they are enclosed. Pressure exerted is transmitted in all directions in any confined mass of fluid. Buoyancy. Have you ever had a swim in a swimming pool and felt lighter? Have you ever driven water from a bowl and felt that the bucket of water is lighter when it is inside the water? Have you ever wondered why a ship made of steel and iron does not sink in water, but welter the same amount of steel and iron in the form of a thin sheet would sink? We can answer these questions by taking buoyancy in consideration. Let us try to understand the meaning of buoyancy by doing an activity. The force which occurs due to the gravitational attraction of the earth acts on the bottle in the downward direction. So the force applied on the bottle is in downward direction, and the bottle is pulled downwards, but the water exerts an upward opposite directional force on the bottle. Thus, the bottle is pushed upwards. We know that weight of an object is the force due to gravitational attraction of the earth. When the bottle is immersed in water, the amount of upward force exerted by the water on the bottle is greater than weight of bottle. Therefore, it rises up when released. To keep the bottle completely immersed in water, the upward force on the bottle due to water must be balanced. This target can be achieved by an externally applied force which is acting downwards. This applied force must at least be equal to the difference between the weight of the bottle and the upward force. The upward force which is exerted by the water on the bottle is known as a buoyant force or upthrust. In fact, all objects when immersed in a fluid experience a force of buoyancy. The magnitude of this experienced buoyant force depends on the density of the fluid. Why objects float or sink when placed on the surface of water? Let us perform the following activities to arrive at an answer for the above question. The nail sinks. The nail is pulled inward due to gravitational attraction force of the earth. There is an upthrust of water on the nail, which pushes the nail upwards, but the downward force which is acting on the nail is greater than the upthrust of water on the nail, therefore it sinks. The cork floats on the surface of water while the nail sinks. This all happens because of the difference in their densities. The density of a substance is known as their density. The density of a substance is known as the mass per unit volume of that substance. The density of a cork is less than the density of water. In other words, the upthrust of water on the cork is greater than the weight of the cork. That is why it floats. The density of water is less than the density of an iron nail. This means that the upthrust of water on the iron nail is less than the weight of the nail. That is why it sinks. Therefore, all objects having density less than that of a liquid float on the surface of a liquid. The objects having density greater than that of a liquid sink in the liquid. You will see that the elongation of the string or the reading on the balance decreases as the stone is gradually taken lower in the water. However, no more change is observed after once the stone gets fully immersed in the water. Now, what do you infer from the decrease in the reading on the spring balance or the extensions of the string? We know that the elongation is produced in the spring balance or in the string due to the weight of the stone. Since the extension decreases once the stone is lowered in water, it means that some force is acting on the stone in upward direction. Thus the net force on the string decreases and hence the elongation also decreases as mentioned earlier. This upward force exerted by water is called the force of buoyancy. What is the magnitude of the buoyant force experienced by a body? Is its magnitude same in all fluids for a particular body? Do all bodies in a given fluid experience the same buoyant force? To answer these questions, a principle can be stated as follows. When a body is immersed partially or fully in a fluid, it experiences a force in upward direction that is equal to the weight of a fluid displaced by it. Now can you explain why more decrease in the elongation of the string cannot be observed in activity 7 as the stone was fully immersed in water? Archimedes' principle has many practical applications. It is used in designing submarines and ships. Lactometer is an instrument which is used to determine purity of a sample of milk, and hydrometer is an instrument which is used for determining the density of liquids. Both are based on this principle. Relative density. We know that the density of a substance is defined as the mass of a unit volume. The unit of a density is kilogram, m के power -3 kilogram per meter cube. Then the density of a given substance remains the same under specified conditions.